Yeah. Oh, Vicky, there you go.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good start.
I don't know why that working.
Oh my God, what happened?
I couldn't
So
hear
you got-
you. It's like I could.
Oh.
Huh? I
You
could
couldn't
hear.
hear at all?
No, nothing. I could hear my yeah, like I could see you, but I can't hear you. I could hear myself talking on the thing, but strange. It's all good.
Good
Well,
start.
I don't know why that working.
oh my God, what happened?
I couldn't
So
hear
you
you.
got-
It's like I could.
Oh.
Huh? Did you
You
record
couldn't hear
that?
at all?
No, nothing. I could hear my yeah, like I could see this, but I can't hear
Are
you.
we all-
What's going on? Like thing, but...
So just so you know, Vicky, you've been live while you've been talking.
Oh, you are joking. Sorry.
So, you know, sometimes these things are hilarious. You know, I just know as soon as you start saying, I'm going to go live at 5, 4, everyone starts panicking.
Oh God!
I just flick the switch and make everybody go live, and then everyone's now live on the internet. You're actually live now across Facebook, YouTube.
Oh, well, there you go. My first debut.
Your dulcet tones. And can I just introduce? This is the team that is producing all of the magic right now. And what you're doing, I think, is amazing, and I'm very, very proud of you, as you know. And I'd love all of you to just talk a little bit about who you are and where you've come from and what you've done, and then we're going to tell the market just exactly what we're seeing from these meetings. Because Vicky, you're on the front line, you know, speaking to execs, speaking to the vendors, hearing firsthand sometimes the results of the meetings. Anne's on the front line, putting it out there to making sure that the whole world knows about us. Master's on the front line, making sure that things go right and smooth. And Rebecca's on the front line, bringing new clients and new partnerships. And we're seeing all of this energy that's starting to happen now, which is a result of all the stuff that you guys have done. So you should all feel very proud. Rebecca, you've been in the country for what, 10 minutes?
A little longer, but not too much longer. So I arrived in Australia July of last year. So I went through the 2 weeks of quarantine. And I think you all know my story, but I think everybody assumes that being married to an Aussie means that you instantaneously get a visa, which is most certainly not the case. So I arrived as a tourist and wanted to make the most of my time and sort of make sure that there was the potential that I couldn't have worked for maybe 18 months. So I wanted to utilize that time to sort of give back. So I started volunteering and I was rehoming farm animals, which is not something I have previously done. But I am from a market town back at home, Melton Mowbray. So I was volunteering a couple of days a week, and then I saw the opportunity arise at Meet Magic. So not that I can relate Starlight or any of our children's foundations to rehoming farm animals, but it was really nice sort of during that time to have a purpose and now to incorporate that into my daily job. And we get very excited every time a meeting is booked, knowing the impact that that's going to have.
Totally, and you know, so the journey of having a startup is really interesting because you come up with a great idea or an idea, you think it's great, and then you have to go and run it yourself, and you do all the sales and all marketing and everything else all by yourself. Then you think you get a bit too busy, you have to hire some support, and often it's a VA from Philippines or something to help you. And then all of a sudden you realize you need some local support, so you might start hiring some part-time people. This journey of mine that I started with, this whole Meet Magic thing, I turned around and we had like 15 part-time people working for us. And it was incredible. It was the Lilies and the Maddies and the Livs, and it was amazing what we accomplished. But I knew that there was a point where it's going to have to go. We now need full-time professionals to help us kickstart it to the next level, because you hit this ceiling of complexity. And for me, when you hit that ceiling of complexity, it's like, you've got to scale, but you need people to help you scale. And you were the first person that we hired. I always knew that we needed an account manager to help build the relationships, because I'm crap at relationships. You can ask any of my girlfriends or ex-girlfriends how crap I am at relationships. and you are just, And it was literally the fact that you were rehoming animals, and doing this for no money, told me that you were kind, and I was right. My gut feeling was right. So I'm very, very grateful that you're here, and wow, what a couple of months, or what, 6 months almost it's been, and the growth has been phenomenal. I mean, it's a big shout out to Ron if you're watching, but Ron at the AIIA, that partnership there for me is the partnership that Meat Magic has, that you created with the industry's peak body for digital companies, which is amazing. So very, very grateful. And then Marsa came on because we needed someone to sort out all the mess that I'd created. And literally, it was a mess. It was all these systems and rubbish and we had poor Vicky. She's inherited a lot of that mess trying to book meetings. But Marsa's come along to help put all the systems and structure. But it's been a bit more than that, right, Mars?
Yeah, so I guess employee number 2, full time. And when I did join, it was messy to say the least. But I think operations always is messy. And yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey so far, I guess. So my background is in corporate law, so it's quite different to the startup world. And coming in to startups, this is the second startup I've joined, but this has been very different in terms of how things are run. And it's been really good because Carl empowers all of us to really take the lead and, to run with things. And so he's empowered me to really take operations forward. And we have gone through a sort of a digital transformation internally, changing a lot of our our CRM systems and overhauling our website and our platform and product. So yeah, it's been a really good journey so far.
Big shout out to Alex and Sam,
yeah,
and Joe Gaines for being big supporters at Salesforce. And I think that the whole transformation going from Airtable to Salesforce, that's a massive job in itself, with all of the data that we've got in the background, which is and that's really been the sort of the engine room of the business, really, because we get all these execs signing up, giving us their time, and then we have to match them, and we have to share that information with our clients. And Vicky's been with us, what, 8 months?
Yeah, February, I think I came on board. February, yeah.
So everyone can hear those dulcet tones of Vicky's. Vicky speaks to every one of our customers and every one of the execs every day. Yeah. And your job is to match the diaries, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So when there are both sides, when executives request members or when members request executives, we match them up and get the meetings going, really. So,
I'm going to come back to you in a minute, because this is going to be the basis of this conversation, because you're at the front line of watching what's happening and what's working and what's not working with sales. And you hear firsthand about what works and what doesn't work, and I think that is the value that every person watching is going to get from this, because sales has changed, marketing's changed, work from home's changed, everything's changed. So Anne is our latest and newest, and you've come. We had Liv before, Anne, and Liv was we actually hired Liv to do some internal admin, and Liv ended up being our marketing person for an entire year, and she put the brand, bless her, on the market and gave us all of this visibility across all the different platforms. But we never had any of that structure and discipline about marketing. And for me, marketing was just like putting a whole lot of stuff out there and trying to get some leads. But Anne's bringing a bit of rigor and a bit of discipline to it, right?
Yeah. So hi. I guess my background is in marketing. So 12-ish years in marketing. So I've been in publishing, 2 startups, then moved to a software company, and then randomly got this message from Carl one day, like, hey, do you want to talk about this opportunity? And I was like, okay. And he's like, oh, you want to jump on a call like this afternoon? I was like, okay. And then like an hour on the phone, or well, actually it was over Zoom, wasn't it? Talking, and it was just the easiest conversation ever. So, and that's pretty much where it all started for Meat Magic here. So yeah, super excited.
And you came from Sage, right? Sage software.
Jade software. So they were doing digital transformation, lots of stuff, in a little bit of AI, a little bit of all different things, a couple of products in anti-money laundering and investigations. Yeah, different this, definitely.
I mentioned Sage. I don't know why I mentioned Sage. I think Rebecca and I are English from the East Midlands, so Sage and onion stuffing is just
a winning combination.
Yeah. But so this little LinkedIn Live we wanted to share everybody is the fact that virtual selling, which is what everyone's been doing for the past, God knows, since lockdowns happened, it's not going away. And we are fundamentally in the belief that this type of connection and meeting with people is going to be here forever. And the reason that is because the whole work from home situation has changed. You know, people are not going to be in the office full time anymore. They're going to be part of a hybrid work solution. So they'll be part-time. So what that basically means is that the buyers of your products and services are not going to be face-to-face with you anymore. They're going to be virtual. And by the very definition of that, it means that the whole process of selling has changed from what most salespeople would be, which is a sort of product first or a seller's first strategy, into now what should become a buyer's first strategy. And this is really exciting, I think, for us because, you know, for the buyers of products and services, they are now able to obviously go and research and look at your product before you've even walked in the door. They know about your reputation because they can see online who your customers are and whether or not you're doing a good job. They'll be able to see tweets and LinkedIn stuff. So your entire business is on the market already. So by the time you walk into a meeting, we believe that your only job now is to build trust and to build connection with that person that you're meeting and to stop bloody selling. Because the whole selling thing, people just don't want to be sold to anymore. I mean, Vicky, you've seen this now, right? For God knows how long.
Yeah. Yeah, it's becoming a more common thing of feedback that I'm getting following meetings, because, you know, like you're saying, people don't want a hard sale anymore. They don't want to go in and be pushed into a product or a service when they're going into the meetings, especially these type of meetings when they are, you know, we do focus them on making connections within the industry that, you know, you've got a common knowledge and making an improvement in the kids' lives. That's why we're doing this. You know, it's a charitable thing that the executives are jumping on board and meeting with the members. So to go into a meeting and to be shoved, you know, a product in their face is not something that they want. So that's a regular feedback that we're getting after a meeting from the execs, is that sometimes they don't want to do any more because they've gone into their first meeting and then it's been a hard selling meeting, and it's put them off doing it anymore. Where, you know, if they go in and have a different approach and it's you know, chatting, like you're saying, getting to know the executive, getting to know what their company, getting to know what their issues are, where there's maybe gaps in what they're doing, and building that trust with them, you're going to get a much more valuable meeting out of it, and, you know, a much more valuable relationship moving forward between the execs and yourself and your company.
And we've been advocating this from day one. I know Rebecca talks about this all the time with our clients about, you know, walk into these meetings. No one cares about your data lake. What's your line, Rebecca? Unless you can put your what?
Unless you can put a boat in it. Don't talk about the data.
Yeah, unless you can put a boat in it, don't talk about your data lake. So we basically advocate walking into these meetings and building a connection from the heart and having a conversation, because, you know, you've got two ears and one mouth. You know, in sales, we should be using them in proportion. We should be listening more than we're talking. But that whole selling process, I think, has changed, and that buyer first philosophy now is here. And you need to learn first, and that requires active listening. And so I know that when we onboard a new client, we take them through a process of saying that, go through this journey of having an altruistic based conversation, because that's what we're seeing is leading to more conversations. And for me, it's very simple. It's a bit like having a Tinder date. Marcia, I don't know if you've had any of those recently, but You know,
not on LinkedIn Live. Let's not go.
but you know, you have you go on a date, whether it's a Bumble date or whatever it is, but you don't go into that date. You meet them online. You don't go in there and ask them to marry you on the first date. But I think some salespeople are doing that with these meetings, and it's actually having the opposite effect. So if you want to have a second date with the exec, you've got to really go in there and start to understand and start to learn, and then define. And I think that leads to being able to share steadily and having a little bit of transparency about empowering the buyer with some information.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so these execs, they take these meetings not because they want to buy your product, but because they want to learn something, and that requires telling a story. And you know, I think the stories are that who was it, Rebecca, the other day that we had who told us one of our clients at New Ones that we onboarded about, and their stories about protecting a state from blowing up or something. What was that?
Yeah, it was a really good story. I don't recall the name of the member, but just kind of the way that they told the story. And I'm not a techie person, but it really kind of got me and sort of grasped me, and kind of, you know, I was definitely sort of on board wanting to learn more and sort of ask questions as to sort of how they achieved that. So it was definitely a great approach, and we've heard wonderful stories from all of our members.
Yeah.
About
And the ROI from these meetings is ridiculous, because most of our clients have stuck around with us for God knows how long, and they've had some of them have had hundreds of meetings, and so the results are coming from them because they're following a process of having a conversation versus shoving some AI down your throat. So you spent how many months in America rolling out a product into 35 states?
Yeah, across 32 states. I was there about 6 months. Yeah, with my previous company.
So you've actually helped scale a company already, right? What was that journey like?
I think each startup journey is different. Each team and product is different, but it's always the same sort of thrill and rush. And it's like Reid Hoffman says, like working in a startup is like jumping out of a helicopter and building your parachute on the way down. It really is like that. And a lot of the times you're just fumbling your way through and you just make it work. But, a lot of it is also not being afraid to try new things and to test things out and to learn from them and to pivot quickly when you need to. So that was the one key thing I've learned working in startups.
And of course, not selling too hard, right? Because if you sell too hard, you actually push people away. I think there are a number of factors that people should consider. Things that influence a deal. I think the top 5 things that influence a deal is definitely trust. The trust needs to be there, and with that brand, you need to have some sort of ROI. There's no point buying something if it's going to cost you too much money. So you need to be delivering some sort of ROI. So price is kind of important. And I think industry knowledge, if you don't know your product or know your competitors' products. I had a call this morning from Elvis. If you're watching, Elvis called me about, he's just started with a new company. I forget the name of them, some cybersecurity company. I forget the name. Anyway, but he told me about who they compete with and the value about how they're different to what those competitors are. And I immediately felt my brain going, he knows what he's talking about, because not only does he understand his own product, he actually understands how it differentiates him from other people. He started telling me some stories, and I'm thinking, wow, that was a sign of a good salesperson that knows how to have that conversation subtly without going, here's my widget, here's my data lake, here's my AI. And that for me was building trust in the relationship. So I just know there are some deal killers out there, and we see people, we've all done it, salespeople that have sent lots of emails or lots of texts, or they've handed them on LinkedIn, and that cold calling or that cold emailing repeatedly, deal killer. Complete deal killer. So I'm seeing a lot of that, and not having enough information about your product is a deal killer, or not understanding competitors, or not understanding your own product, or understanding where things are happening. So, from here on in, we've got now, how many execs are on board now, Vicky? It's about 1,000 around the world?
Yeah, around that. Yeah, quite
And there's,
a lot now. We've got a
probably
good
60 or so members that are requesting their time. And Master's now building a platform that's going to automate all of that and is going to market it. Genius.
Yeah.
Just to all of those points, Carl, I think that's sort of comes into your everyday life, right? I mean, you receive so many emails from sort of maybe a company that you subscribed from 2 years ago, and like the amount of times I've sort of unsubscribed from things just because I'm being bombarded and it's not sort of, the message isn't tailored towards sort of things that I'm interested in, and therefore that company potentially loses my business. So I think it's not just Meet Magic meetings, but sort of in general when it comes to sales and marketing.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing is that trend towards sort of peer-to-peer selling, and how that that does help with that trust element a lot more. So if you can get a warm introduction in, or a warm lead in, it helps a lot more. And going back to your point as well, Carl, about the values, talking, approaching the meeting coming from a values point of view, as opposed to just trying to sell your product. I think that's becoming more and more important, because people want to work with people that they are aligned to, whether that's from a values perspective, from a diversity and inclusion perspective. These things are becoming more and more important to people as we sort of progress into the 21st century.
Absolutely. So selling has changed, literally. And I think sellers can fix that by telling the truth and being honest about things. And that builds a little bit of trust. They can deliver things that are more personalized, which is another way of doing it. But relevant messaging is probably another way. But I think resisting the overindulging in cold outreach, because that, I think right now there's 45 billion more emails in the system, because everyone's getting now a notification for this, a notification for that, notification for your Zoom call, so many. So now you've got all these emails coming in, and if you're reaching out too much, it's overindulging in that cold outreach. So that I think we're going now from, I think sellers have to go from distrust to trust. That's the key. And I think buyers now are looking for salespeople that they can trust, and they're not going to do it. And so there's a whole process. We obviously help them with that process, because they've got an immediate connection to a decision maker through Meet Magic, and they've got an immediate strategy to go and have a conversation about something other than their product, and that leads to having a human connection, which I think it aligns with everybody. The rise of the millennial buyers now, I mean, they're flexible, they're online, they're accessible anywhere. This is how our buyers are, and people that are selling to those people need to understand that this is a new way of doing business. It's not going to go away, but you need to now adapt and swap that old mentality of shoving product down people's throat and start to add value and start to deliver some value.
Yeah, it's really important what you said about adding value. I think a lot of people forget that. You need to add value to someone, the conversation before someone's gonna want to buy something. And I think I've had meetings in the past where obviously like a vendor's tried to come to sell, and the one that has really won me over is when they came to me and they showed me all this research that they had around who are the typical buyers in an organization or something like that. And it really added value to my life, or like my work. Not just that, but it's like understanding who the influencers are within an organization as well. Everyone wants to meet with, maybe the top person in an organization, but who are the other people that you can meet there to influence, to have a conversation with, to help open doors. And the other thing I think really is, you only really get one chance these days. If you break that trust by pitching too hard, by, not researching and understanding who you're talking to, like that's massive. If you go into a meeting and you haven't, researched who you're meeting with, research the company, what they're doing, or ask them those questions up front, I think that's super important.
That is right there, nail on the head. Absolutely. It's, I often say, if you've got a meeting with the CIO of Commonwealth Bank, you want to walk in there fully armed, and don't ask him or her what keeps them awake at night, because you should know. You should get information out there.
And the meeting doesn't stop after the 45 minutes, right? It's kind of, being proactive and making sure that you're sort of keeping the new contact up to date on all things that are happening, sort of providing them additional value, as you say, Anne, and it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really exciting now is that we're starting to see, the CIOs and the CTOs coming to us, asking us to connect them with certain vendors and certain capabilities in the market, whether it's AI or whether it's machine learning. And that tells me that obviously the market is shifting a lot, because they have to reach out. They have to go out and evaluate new products. Digital transformation is a big deal, and it covers a lot of different things. So, if they can meet with a new member or a new supplier through us and do some good at the same time. And I just want to give it, you are the team, like it says on that thing, behind the world's most impactful conversations, who connect the greatest minds in technology and business. Just remember that, because our clients are the top right-hand quadrant Gartner companies. They're the biggest companies on the planet in tech. And most of our execs who are meeting with them, they would only buy from those types of companies because it's less risky. It's less risky than buying, and this is just the way it is. This is the way corporates buy. They want to make sure that it's safe and secure and reliable, and so you're the people behind that. I just want to say a big thank you to all of the $1,000 execs all around the world that have given us their time, including those new ones in the UK from Lloyd's, and big shout out to Eamon, big champion, and the ones who have been around with us from the beginning. And really helped us to get to where we are today. It's the Sean Millers, it's the Andrew Matizaks, the Ken Nichols from the Lend-Leases, and all the. I think Ken's been around since 2016. He was one of the first execs to take a meeting over at Lend-Lease, and for every one of them that's come on board, it's been an amazing journey. And I think we're only just beginning. This is really just the start of it. It really just feels like that. My big dream is to have 10 cities around the world doing 1,000 meetings a month and giving a shitload of money to charity. And by the way, you've all, Vicky, sort of acknowledge you for your record month. So I'm about to send $50,000 over to Starlight.
That's
from
amazing.
those meetings. We've given Starlight over $600,000 through these meetings. So if that doesn't tell you that something's working, I must have rocks in my head. Actually, I don't have rocks in my head.
That's
Anyway.
funny when you say that, because when I spoke to the lady at the Starlight Room at the Children's Monash, and I told her the amount that Meet Magic has sent over, she was like, "Oh my goodness, like that's a massive amount." So she was like, "Yeah, thank you." Yeah, so just shows you, and when you can see the impact that it has, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And and this is really exciting now. So talk about partnerships. We've just got a partnership with the RQAM, which Anne's has put in place with Lexi in Singapore. This is Raffles Key Asset Management, and they own all these big corporate buildings around Singapore. And they're going to be sending a message out to 15,000 people to advise them that they can join us as an exec and host a meeting. And for each meeting that gets hosted, 10 low-income families in Singapore will get fed for an entire month. Just let that sink in. One business meeting, 10 families get fed for an entire month. Yeah, it's just the mind boggles. Why would you not want to take 10 meetings and feed 100 families? It's just remarkable. In New Zealand, big shout out to our friend Pongs, wherever you are, Brendan and the Cure Kids team. Each meeting supports valuable research for Cure Kids in New Zealand. So if you're a New Zealand exec, get on board and you can help child health research. If you're in the UK, one business meeting, get this, one business meeting will generate £700, which will help 300 seriously ill kids. And now, if this doesn't resonate with people, they've got no heart. They can't have. So our biggest job at the moment is to get as many execs as we can signed up. So if you're an exec and you want to make a bit of a difference, if you're an ESG, or if you're a wellness or what was PNC, people and culture manager, you have a job to engage your staff right now. Lockdown is lockdown. So we have these meetings which they can do some good, which helps them become a better leader, helps them become more engaged at work. This team here that you're looking at are all drug dealers. We're all dealing in dopamine. Every meeting that happens, you get a bit of a dopamine rush, and you feel good about that. And because you feel good about that, you're more engaged at work. You're a better husband, better wife, better partner. There's no downside. So come on, execs, get on board. We love you. On that note, so that's it. I think we're done. I think we'll end it. 'Cause it's been half an hour. Has it been half an hour? Yeah. How was your first LinkedIn Live, ladies? Did you enjoy that, or was it boring?
It was great.
It's like,
I think we're still live, aren't we?
We are still live.
Yeah. You still you got anything you want to say? You got a joke you want to say or anything, Mark?
A joke.
Yeah,
I don't have a joke, but I did want to sort of reiterate that point about the execs actually coming to us and requesting meetings with our members, because I think that's a really important point to sort of bring home, is that what we're seeing now is this trend of execs wanting to essentially have access to industry so that they can do their due diligence. They can check out what's available in the market so they can learn, but also so that they, there's no conflicts of interest, that there's an even playing ground when it comes to procurement. So we are seeing a trend in that direction from the executive side as well. So that's just something I thought it would be good to raise.
Yeah.
So good. Now, Rebecca's just dropped off because she's gone to join a call, which I'm meant to be on as well. So, thank you, ladies. Really love you. And
thank you. Sorry about the start.
Good. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Broadcast.